Edgar Cayce, a Kentuckian who became the most documented psychic of the 20th century.
His special gift was hard to accept.
His readings unlocked secrets from the past and predicted our future.
He has certainly predicted political events that came to be.
Adam Weiner investigates why a new generation is rediscovering Kentucky's sleeping prophet.
The future is no longer something too distant because, in truth, it was predicted in eerie detail centuries ago. The sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce, made particularly suspenseful predictions about the future of the United States, more specifically, the future of President Donald Trump. The warnings that Edgar Cayce urged the world to pay special attention to seem to be becoming increasingly accurate over time. Are Trump's decisions pushing the world into a dire situation, just as Edgar Cayce's prophecies foretold? Is the world facing a series of catastrophic events as predicted by Edgar Cayce? What happened to America in 2025? The very first prophecy started with what Edgar Cayce revealed us a new era in American leadership. Edgar Cayce foresaw a dramatic shift in the U.S. political landscape, predicting that new leadership would rise amidst times of turmoil. This vision aligns strikingly with Donald Trump's ascent to power. Trump's recent policies and actions have sparked major controversy, leading to widespread dissatisfaction within the community. For many, Trump embodied a force of change, someone who pledged to shake up Washington, challenge the establishment, and usher in a new political order. His leadership signified a departure from the status quo, mirroring Cayce's prophecy of transformative figures who would redefine the nation's direction. Second, the prophecy of internal strife and discord. Cayce warned that America would face profound internal struggles, both politically and socially. During Trump's tenure, the country experienced waves of protests, fierce ideological battles, and an escalating divide between political factions. Trump's policies across various sectors have sparked controversy. While some support his decisions, others find them completely unreasonable. This echoes Cayce's vision of a nation grappling with crises that test its unity. The polarization between opposing viewpoints intensified, with heated debates over immigration, economic policies, and social justice. The turmoil that defined Trump's presidency bears a strong resemblance to Cayce's warnings about an era of conflict shaking the very foundation of the nation. The third prophecy is concerning Russia's global role. Cayce suggested that Russia could emerge as a pivotal force in times of global transition. Throughout Trump's presidency, U.S.-Russia relations were a subject of intense scrutiny, particularly with allegations of election interference and diplomatic maneuvering. Unlike previous leaders, Trump adopted a more conciliatory stance toward Russia, fostering discussions that diverged from traditional foreign policy approaches. This shift aligns intriguingly with Cayce's prediction that Russia could play an unexpected role in shaping the world's future, a notion that continues to fuel speculation and debate. Fourth, the prophecy of economic upheaval. Cayce envisioned a period of financial instability that would shake the global economy, with significant repercussions for the United States. Under Trump, economic concerns took center stage, especially amid trade tensions with China and questions about long-term economic resilience. While early years saw economic growth, the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic triggered a major recession, testing the nation's financial endurance. This mirrors Cayce's foresight of an economic reckoning, one marked by uncertainty, market fluctuations, and challenges to global financial stability. Fifth, the prophecy of shifting beliefs and societal transformation. Cayce predicted that in modern times, people's values and ideologies would undergo a profound transformation, particularly in areas of spirituality and national identity. Trump's presidency saw a passionate and deeply loyal following, with many supporters viewing him as more than just a political leader. This near reverence for his leadership created a movement that some likened to a cultural or ideological shift, reminiscent of Cayce's predictions about a renewed search for meaning manifesting in politics and society. His foresight into changing societal currents appears eerily reflective of the intense ideological battles and realignments witnessed in recent years. Last but not least is the prophecy about the change of North America's geography, and the most surprising part was yet to come. If you think you've heard it all about Edgar Cayce's obsessions with continental drift, prepare for another astonishing prediction. He visualized a change in the geography of North America. According to Cayce, the coast of Canada would expand by an impressive 320 kilometers, transforming landscapes and habitats. Regions like Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and parts of Alberta would become safe havens for those displaced from Asia and Europe. Cayce predicted that the North American plate would move, creating a chain of nearly 150 new islands along the coast of California. This seismic displacement would push the West Coast eastward toward Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. Regarding bodies of water, Cayce believed that the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River would merge into a single gigantic lake flowing into the Gulf of Mexico. The east coast of the United States would face massive flooding from Maine to Florida, submerging vast areas. Mexico would not escape either, with its coasts submerged under rising seas. The Baja California Peninsula would fragment into a collection of islands. These dramatic changes could displace and potentially cause the death of billions of people. Even the peaceful rural lands of Kentucky would not be spared from the devastation. Continuing with predictions about nations, we now move on to the next prophecy concerning China, a country with a special relationship with the U.S. China's rise. The prophecy given by Edgar Cayce regarding the emergence of China and its spiritual awakening has gained wider attention. He envisioned a future where China is not only an economic giant, but also a hub of Christianity. This prediction stands out because of the atheistic or non-religious background of China, particularly under communism. Cayce believed that in the future, China would undergo a great change, wherein Christianity would be an influential component of Chinese society and culture. This change, as envisioned by Cayce, would occur over several generations. It suggests that in the future, China will not just be dominating in terms of economy, but will also practice spiritual leadership. While Cayce's prediction may seem unlikely, given China's current state, where religious freedoms are limited and monitored, it raises questions about the potential for cultural shifts in the future. Whether this prophecy will come true remains uncertain, but it showcases the changes in society and the complexities of global relationships. Cayce's vision of a future Chinese Christianity demonstrates his faith in time and unpredictable changes in the cultures and religious systems that can affect our perception of political and religious borders. Global conflict. Edgar Cayce's prediction about a major global conflict and shifts in power focuses on potential tensions centered around the Persian Gulf. He suggested that future hostilities will occur in countries such as Libya, Egypt, Syria, and regions close to Australia. Insights of Cayce state that these areas might potentially turn into critical areas of interest in geopolitical conflicts. This forecast aligns with modern debates about stability in the Middle East and North Africa, seen by the competition for resources, political power, and regional dominance. Further, Cayce has hinted at more profound shifts in the balance of power on the international level. He witnessed a change like leadership in the world and believed that countries like Russia could be of immense help. This prediction aligns with historical shifts where countries have risen or fallen in influence on the world stage, impacting alliances and international relations. Cayce's vision of a major global conflict and shifts in power reflects his observations on potential conflict areas and the evolving nature of geopolitical dynamics. While the specifics remain speculative, The prediction shows the dependence on global affairs and the ongoing importance of diplomacy and international cooperation in preventing conflicts and maintaining stability. Edgar Cayce's predictions for 2025 provide a fascinating glimpse into potential future scenarios. From dramatic geographical transformations and the rise of China as a spiritual center, to the extension of human lifespans and significant global conflicts, Cayce's visions challenge our perceptions and provoke thoughtful consideration of what the future might hold. Cayce's visions, including geographical changes and spiritual developments, are questionable when seen through the lens of modernity, science, and continued progress. The first major issue refers to the specification of the prophecies made by Cayce on various occasions. While some of his prophecies seem to align with historical events, others remain vague or unfulfilled, leaving room for interpretation. Critics argue that Cayce's use of terms like perhaps and maybe allows for broad interpretation, making it difficult to assess the accuracy of his predictions objectively. Moreover, Cayce's predictions about technological advancements and human evolution challenge current scientific understanding. These predictions serve as a reminder of the potential for change and the continued mystery of the future. Understanding these prophecies requires balancing curiosity with skepticism, recognizing the potential insights they offer while acknowledging their limitations in our modern society. Earth changes. In the 1930s and 1940s, Cayce made many prophecies of cataclysmic events involving the whole planet, with a series of Earth changes occurring very soon. He predicted that the polar axis would shift and that many areas that are now land would again become ocean floor, and that Atlantis would rise from the sea. The phrase, Earth changes, was coined by the American psychic Edgar Cayce in the 1930s in reference to his belief that the world would soon enter a series of cataclysmic events, causing major alterations in human life on the planet. This includes natural events such as major earthquakes, the melting of the polar ice caps, a pole shift of the planetary axis, major weather events, solar flares, and so on, as well as huge changes in the local and global social, economic, and political systems. Cayce's term was taken up in certain segments of the New Age movement, often associated with other predictions by people claiming to have psychic abilities. These beliefs have occasionally been associated with Christian millennialism and beliefs about UFOs. Some New Age adherents believe that Earth's changes will preface a golden age of spirituality and world peace. According to him, all of these will happen very soon, maybe in 2025. Lifespan. As human beings will be extended. We know that humans are now living longer than at the time of Edgar Cayce, but his readings seem to indicate that a healthy human lifespan would extend years beyond that which we are currently living. He once said, "Now, we find there are many changes in the body since we have had this, many for good. Many of the organs and the conditions show the changes as come about by the natural, or so-called natural conditions and changes as the body succumbs to the effects of age or usage in the system. Much of this may be overcome. Man should live much longer than has been ordinarily given, and will." While we have seen improvements in healthcare that have increased lifespans compared to Cayce's time, living for centuries remains a drastic idea. It would mean not just adding years to life, but also maintaining good health over extended periods. Cayce's vision implies that future generations might enjoy a longer and better quality of life in their later years. This could lead to changes in how societies are structured, including retirement ages and healthcare systems. The idea challenges us to think about aging not as a process of decline, but as an opportunity for continued growth and contribution to society. While Cayce's specific timeframe and ways for achieving these longer lifespans remain uncertain and speculative, his vision encourages us to consider the possibilities of future medical advancements and their potential impact on human longevity. It makes us imagine a future where aging is viewed differently, with new opportunities and challenges for individuals and society as a whole. Meanwhile, Baba Vanga gave the other prediction about human life. Baba Vanga is believed to have predicted that for 2025, human babies will be born in laboratories where the color of their skin to their character can be decided. This means that the entire process of birth will be controlled. The rise of technology, according to Vanga, advancements in reproductive technology, have already made it possible for some couples to conceive through in vitro fertilization, IVF, and other assisted reproductive technologies. However, the idea of human reproduction becoming entirely artificial raises a number of ethical questions, such as whether it is right to create human life in a laboratory setting. Additionally, it is unclear what impact this could have on the population as a whole, and what unintended consequences could arise from such technology. Human reproduction becoming entirely artificial could have significant consequences for our population and society. It could potentially lead to a decrease in genetic diversity and a greater reliance on technology to create new life. It could also raise significant ethical questions about the creation and ownership of life, as well as the role of government and society in regulating and controlling such technology. The development of artificial reproductive technologies is an active area of research, and significant advancements have already been made in this field. For example, scientists have successfully grown mouse embryos in an artificial womb, and human embryos have been successfully grown in vitro. While there are still many technical and ethical challenges to be addressed, these advancements suggest that the development of entirely artificial human reproduction is not outside the realm of possibility. The development of artificial body parts and prosthetics is an active area of research, and significant advancements have already been made in this field. For example, scientists have developed brain-controlled prosthetic arms, and some artificial organs, such as hearts, are already in use. While the development of entirely artificial bodies and organs is still a long way off, these advancements suggest that the potential for such technology is not out of the question. The Awakeness Year. The year 2025, according to Cayce, marks a pivotal moment in human history. It's described as an epoch where a collective awakening occurs the world. He believed that by 2025, humanity would experience a significant spiritual awakening, leading to a deeper connection with our inner selves and a greater awareness of our interconnectedness with all living beings. This prediction resonates with the increasing interest in mindfulness, meditation, and holistic well-being practices in our modern society. As scientific and technological advancements have dominated our collective focus, many have found themselves feeling increasingly disconnected from a sense of meaning and purpose in their lives. That is what Edgar Cayce saw long ago, and he believed that 2025 is the perfect time for everyone to awaken. We all need to seek out ways to reconnect with their inner selves and find greater fulfillment in life. Edgar Cayce also spoke about the awakening that people must experience after leaving this world. He told, "After death, we may enter a region that is void of love, life, and light, void of everything. For some, this region is approximately their wish come true. Here, they are truly alone with themselves. For some souls, this is a pain that is unbearable. In the absence of truth, love, gentleness, and kindness, some souls fill the void with an irrational and unbelievable amount of pain and fear. It is so dark in the realm of outer darkness that the darkness hurts, and panic grips them without knowing why. There are various degrees of darkness to this realm, and it is darker and denser at the center than at its outer fringes. The closer we are to the outer edges, the more interaction there is with others in the realm. The closer to the center, the darker and more painful is the solitude. Those who find themselves in outer darkness cannot travel across this dimension. They must grow through the levels of this realm. After death, one may find themselves in a particular degree of darkness that most closely corresponds to the degree of the absence of love in one's life. Outer darkness is not a punishment. It is a region which operates lawfully for the benefit of those who are there. This region is not a realm which was created for any soul to experience, but one which came about as a consequence of the negative activity of souls in creation. So great has been the desire for self, so monumental across time and space has been the selfishness of some of God's creatures, that this realm is the creation or manifestation of their own collective activities. Outer darkness and the reality with which it is associated were created and are held in place by collective self-interest. Being spiritually awakened means that an individual has had a profound shift in their understanding of themselves and the world around them. This awakening often comes after a period of feeling disconnected, lost, or unfulfilled in life. Interestingly, some individuals report experiencing physical symptoms, such as a fever, during their spiritual awakening, signifying a kind of intense inner burning away of old beliefs and patterns. Spiritual awakening can happen suddenly or gradually, and it often involves a change in perception, a deepening of self-awareness, and a newfound sense of connection to a higher power, even amidst internal conflict. Spiritual awakening can take many forms and can be experienced in different ways by different people. Some common signs and symptoms of spiritual awakening can include a greater sense of empathy, compassion, and love towards others, an increased ability to live in the present moment, a deeper connection to nature and the universe, a heightened awareness of synchronicities and signs, and a sense of inner peace and contentment. Ultimately, being spiritually awakened means that an individual has come to a new level of understanding and awareness about themselves and the natural world. It's through this ascension process that you realize your potential and find the ability to change your life profoundly. In other words, they've had a spiritual ascension. Now, it's important to understand the difference between awakening and ascension. At the same time, spiritual awakening refers to the internal shift in consciousness that an individual experiences, leading to a profound change in their understanding of themselves and the world. Ascension, specifically 5D ascension, signifies an evolution beyond the physical reality into a realm of higher spiritual enlightenment and awareness. This spiritual ascension, often referred to as 5D ascension, signifies a shift from the three-dimensional physical reality to a five-dimensional realm of spiritual enlightenment and awareness. It often involves a newfound sense of purpose and direction in life, as well as a deepening of one's spiritual practices and beliefs. The anger from Nature Mother. Edgar Cayce made impressive predictions about changes in the Earth's geography. He claimed that the continents would shift and the climate would change the world in unimaginable ways. He suggested that this transformation could happen suddenly with the eruptions of Mount Etna in Italy and Mount Pelée in Martinique. Both are active volcanoes, with Etna being one of the most active in the world, having erupted recently, while Pelée had its last major eruption in 1902. One of the most critical aspects of this change would occur in Africa. Cayce predicted that the continent would split into three parts due to the formation of a massive new waterway, with the Nile River widening and the Red Sea expanding significantly. This dramatic change could even submerge the bustling city of Cairo under the sea. Asia would not escape these convulsions either. Cayce predicted changes in the geography of India, China, Japan, Korea, and the Philippines. He stated that the Pacific Ocean would advance and swallow large portions of land from the Philippines to Japan, leaving only a few remaining islands. The Korean peninsula and parts of China's coastline would also succumb to the rising seas. For India, Cayce issued a specific warning. He advised seeking refuge in the country's higher elevations due to the potential collapse of land. He believed that the Himalayas in Tibet and Nepal would offer safer refuge for Indians. Cayce also made less favorable predictions for Antarctica. He suggested that as the ice melted, the geological structure of the region would undergo drastic transformations, affecting global climate and altering weather patterns in unpredictable ways. Despite the extreme conditions, Antarctica is home to vibrant wildlife, including penguins, seals, whales, and seabirds. The ice sheet provides essential habitats and breeding areas, protecting many species from predators and ensuring access to food. However, Edgar Cayce predicted a dramatic transformation. Antarctica would lose its ice cover and turn into a vast green expanse, perfect for agriculture. On the other hand, Cayce foresaw a less favorable fate for Australia. He predicted that floods would cover a quarter of Australia's territory, submerging cities like Adelaide. Ironically, the arid deserts like Simpson and Gibson would transform into fertile agricultural lands. New Zealand, however, would emerge unscathed and might even expand, connecting to Australia and becoming a refuge for those displaced by global convulsions. In Europe, the predictions were equally dramatic. Cayce predicted that much of northern Europe, including Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, would submerge, leaving only a fragmented archipelago of islands. The United Kingdom would also suffer, with vast areas from Scotland to the English Channel succumbing to rising sea levels. Although some highland areas, such as London and Birmingham, might remain intact, many regions would not escape the devastating changes. Ireland would be almost entirely swallowed by the ocean, leaving only the highest peaks above the waterline. For ocean enthusiasts, Cayce almost predicted an expansion of the terrestrial waters. A new sea would emerge from the merging of the Black and Baltic Seas, cutting Russia off from continental Europe and extending into Siberia. This would position Russia as Europe's granary, a fertile agricultural power. The Second Coming. Edgar Cayce's predictions about the Second Coming of Christ are among his most intriguing and controversial. Cayce, a devout Christian, believed that the return of Christ would be a pivotal event in human history, marking the end of an age of materialism and the beginning of a new era of spiritual awakening. Cayce suggested that the Second Coming would occur sometime soon. He did not give a specific date, but indicated that it would happen during a period of great global upheaval and change. According to Cayce, the period preceding the Second Coming would be marked by widespread chaos, conflict, and natural disasters. He predicted wars, economic collapse, and social unrest on a global scale, as well as an increase in earthquakes, hurricanes, and other catastrophic events. Cayce believed that the global turmoil would serve as a catalyst for a profound spiritual awakening. He predicted that people would turn away from materialism and seek a deeper connection with the divine, leading to a renewed interest in spirituality and a desire for inner peace. Cayce's visions of the Second Coming described Christ returning not as a physical being, but as a spiritual presence that would manifest in the hearts and minds of people all over the world. He believed that this presence would guide humanity toward a new era of love, compassion, and unity. Cayce predicted that the Second Coming would lead to the establishment of a new world order based on spiritual principles. He envisioned a global society founded on cooperation, equality, and the recognition of the interconnectedness of all life. Cayce emphasized the importance of individual spiritual growth and transformation in preparing for the Second Coming. He believed that each person had a role to play in ushering in the new era, and that personal spiritual development was essential to the collective awakening of humanity. The predictions fulfilled. Unlike other prophets of his time, his predictions covered a wide range of topics, from health and wellness to spirituality, past lives, ancient civilizations, and future technologies. The feats of the sleeping prophet were limitless. In 1902, a young woman with a severe head injury was brought to him. While doctors believed she would not survive, he nearly diagnosed that the real problem was in the spine, not the brain. and suggested that doctors adjust her spine. He read the human body like an X-ray machine, using medical terms with surprising accuracy. In a few months, the young woman showed great improvement. Edgar also used his gifts for the good of the economy. In 1929, foreseeing the imminent stock market crash, he warned his friends to sell their shares. Those who followed his advice managed to save large sums of money. People frequently asked Edgar about who would win a horse race or what would happen in the stock market, and he often responded, bringing profits to those who followed his advice. In one of those predictions, he was correct in saying that the economy would improve until 1930. In 1934, he predicted that Hitler would become an influential leader in Germany, which happened that same year. He also predicted that Hitler's rule would not last, and that a war coming from outside Germany would end his empire. He anticipated the outbreak of a significant war in the heart of Europe, and Germany started World War II, which led to the end of Hitler's reign. He was right in predicting that Germany, Austria, and Japan would form an alliance. Edgar also spoke about the existence of ruins of an ancient civilization under the ocean, near Bimini, in the Bahamas. In 1938, he suggested that this city was the legendary Atlantis, a super-advanced civilization. Curiously, in 1968, underwater structures were found in Bimini, which some researchers believe support Edgar's prophecies. He described Atlantis as a vast continent in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, with technology more advanced than ours, but which disappeared under the ocean about 10,000 years ago due to a great flood. Could this flood be the same one recorded in the Bible during the days of Noah? One of Edgar's most famous predictions was about the 44th president of the United States. He said that this president would be African American, which came true with the election of Barack Obama. Additionally, he was aware of the realities of the Cold War, predicting many of the challenges and tensions of the time. At the height of the Soviet Union's power, Edgar made a surprising statement. The hope of the world would come from Russia, not through communism, but through freedom. He claimed that this hope would take time, but that Russia would eventually free itself from communism, which came true with the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Another impressive example involves the Jewish sect of the Essenes. In 1934, when little was known about them, Edgar provided detailed descriptions that were later proven accurate. He even predicted the discovery of their records and documents, which was confirmed only 12 years later with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. All these impressive predictions of Edgar were fulfilled in the 20th century, and he also made some grim predictions for our times. Despite the skepticism, Cayce still has fervent defenders who highlight the accuracy of some of his diagnoses and advice to sick individuals, even without medical training. These controversies and debates about his predictions keep the curiosity and fascination for his figure alive to this day. Edgar Cayce's enduring legacy, fueled by widespread interest in psychic phenomena, continues to intrigue many. A recent survey revealed that many believe in some form of extrasensory perception or psychic ability. It also highlighted the difference between believers and skeptics. While skeptics tend to be more analytical and critical, believers generally have a more emotional and creative mindset. Interestingly, those who believe in psychic abilities reported experiencing greater happiness and lower levels of stress than skeptics. The enigma of psychic abilities and religious miracles has always fascinated humanity, especially because they challenge traditional scientific explanations. It is undeniable that such experiences can bring comfort to those who suffer, hope to those facing difficulties, and a sense of order in an often chaotic world. Although there is debate about the authenticity of his psychic abilities, Cayce's legacy reminds us that regardless of our personal beliefs about the paranormal, compassion and altruism have a profound and real impact. An interesting curiosity is why Edgar Cayce was called the Sleeping Prophet. This nickname arose because Cayce made his predictions and readings while appearing to be asleep, or rather, in a trance state. He would lie down, close his eyes, and still manage to speak about incredible things that seemed to come from another dimension. Now, think about the possibility of accessing parts of our minds that we normally don't use. Edgar Cayce showed that perhaps we all have a hidden ability to attain profound knowledge simply by changing the way we use our minds. If we learn to do this as Cayce did, imagine how many mysterious and interesting things we might discover about the world and ourselves. This makes us reflect on the incredible power that resides within each of us, waiting to be explored.
His readings unlocked secrets from the past and predicted our future.
He has certainly predicted political events that came to be.
Adam Weiner investigates why a new generation is rediscovering Kentucky's sleeping prophet.
Known as the Sleeping Prophet, Edgar Cayce could treat illnesses and predict the future. In his thoughts and predictions, he also took on Jesus Christ. Join us as we talk about what Edgar Cayce just revealed about Jesus, which shocks everyone. Not only that, but we also invite you to join us to explore Edgar's other predictions about our universe. The Dark Gift. Edgar Cayce was born on March 18, 1877 in Christian County, Kentucky. He was interested in the Bible from an early age, and by age 10, he committed to reading it from cover to cover each year. In fact, it was while he was sitting by the creek reading his Bible that he claimed he was visited by a woman with wings on her back who asked him what he wanted most. He said he wanted to help people, especially children. The woman disappeared, but Cayce would hear from her again. Cayce wasn't particularly interested in school and seemed to struggle with his coursework. His father, Leslie, even went as far as to call him dull. One evening when he was 12, he was studying spelling with his father and couldn't seem to grasp the words. When his frustrated father left the room for a moment, Cayce said he heard the voice of the woman from the creek tell him to fall asleep. He fell asleep on the book, and when he woke up a few minutes later, and to his father's great astonishment, not only could Cayce spell the words he'd been practicing that evening, but he also apparently knew the rest of the lessons too. This was a turning point in Cayce's education, as he started to be quite successful in the classroom. This was also the first moment that Cayce determined sleep was going to be an instrumental part of his life. Aside from his visit from the angelic being at the creek, Cayce also claimed to have seen his dead grandfather walking around the house. In fact, many of his friends growing up were incorporeal beings. That is, his friends were non-material. Cayce's first foray into healing happened when he was hit by a ball on the school playground and injured his back. While he was sleeping that night, his family heard him muttering about the cure to his ailment, and they did as he said. He was apparently healed by the morning. Cayce had no memory of his sleep-talking. Cayce quit school after 8th grade, taking various jobs to help his family financially. One such job was a door-to-door insurance salesman. Unfortunately, he developed laryngitis and lost his voice. Despite his doctor's best efforts, the condition continued for months. He didn't give up working during this time, and he began a career as a photographer. Yet he didn't lose hope that some sort of miracle might happen, and his voice would return. He would not have imagined, though, that hypnosis would have been the key. While asleep, Cayce dictated what was causing his laryngitis and how to heal it. It all apparently had to do with circulation in his vocal cords, which he was able to repair while in his trance. When he woke up, he could speak, and this caused him to wonder if this was how he would help people, healing them while he slept. Unique vision of Jesus. Have you heard about a book that explores the spiritual ideas of Edgar Cayce, the man called the Sleeping Prophet? The book is Edgar Cayce's Story of Jesus, written by Jeffrey First, a writer who has spent many years studying Edgar's work. This book is not just a collection of Edgar's readings. It is a journey into his spiritual visions about one of the most important figures in history, Jesus Christ. Jeffrey First, both the writer and editor, gathered more than 2,500 of Edgar's readings, all about Jesus. These readings happened between the 1920s and 1940s, when Edgar shared many ideas, not only about health and history, but also deep spiritual topics. What makes this book interesting is not just the information, but also the way Jeffrey presents it. He organizes these ideas in a way that both experts and regular readers can enjoy. Edgar Cayce's story of Jesus takes people on a journey through Edgar's special views. Edgar, who gave his readings in a trance-like state, talked about ideas that were very different from traditional Christian beliefs, including the idea of reincarnation. Imagine learning about Jesus' life and mission from a man who believed that souls experience many past and future lives. Speaking of reincarnation, let's continue, because what Edgar Cayce said about Jesus will surprise everyone. The first thing Edgar Cayce said about Jesus might surprise you. He claimed that what people believed for 2,000 years was not completely true. Well, according to Edgar, Jesus' journey did not start in a manger in Bethlehem. Instead, his soul had lived many lives before, each one helping to shape the person we know as Jesus Christ. Let's go back to the very beginning, or at least as far back as Edgar's readings take us. Imagine Jesus as Adam, the first man in the Bible. Edgar did not just see Adam as the person who ate the forbidden fruit. He believed Adam was the starting point of human awareness and the beginning of a long spiritual journey toward enlightenment. Adam's mistake in the Garden of Eden led to humanity's need for redemption, a mission that Jesus would later complete. The next important life was Enoch, a man known for being so close to God that he was taken to heaven without dying. For Edgar, Enoch's story showed a big step forward spiritually. His life was about walking closely with God and preparing for the teachings that Jesus would later share. Then there was Melchizedek, a mysterious figure in the Bible. He appeared in Abraham's story, gave him a blessing, and then disappeared. He had no parents, no family history, just a priest who existed forever. In Edgar's view, Melchizedek's role was an early version of Jesus' eternal priesthood, showing wisdom that would later become fully clear in Jesus' life. Many years later, the same soul lived as Joseph, the son of Jacob. Joseph was sold into slavery, but later became the second most powerful man in Egypt. Edgar believed this was an important step in learning patience, forgiveness, and kindness, qualities that Jesus would later teach to the world. Every difficult experience Joseph faced helped prepare his soul for the mission of Jesus. Then came Joshua, the leader who took Moses' place and led the Israelites into the Promised Land. Edgar said that Joshua's life was about building faith and courage, preparing for an even bigger task, bringing spiritual salvation to all of humanity as Jesus Christ. Earth changes. And now let's see some predictions of this prophet for the whole world. In the 1930s and 1940s, Cayce made many prophecies of cataclysmic events involving the whole planet, with a series of Earth changes occurring very soon. He predicted that the polar axis would shift, that many areas that are now land would again become ocean floor, and that Atlantis would rise from the sea. The phrase Earth changes was coined by the American psychic Edgar Cayce in the 1930s, in reference to his belief that the world would soon enter a series of cataclysmic events, causing major alterations in human life on the planet. This includes natural events, such as major earthquakes, the melting of the polar ice caps, a pole shift of the planetary axis, major weather events, solar flares, and so on, as well as huge changes in the local and global social, economic, and political systems. Cayce's term was taken up in certain segments of the New Age movement, often associated with other predictions by people claiming to have psychic abilities. These beliefs have occasionally been associated with Christian millennialism and beliefs about UFOs. Some New Age adherents believe that Earth's changes will preface a golden age of spirituality and world peace. According to him, all of these will happen very soon. A new economic era. The collapse of traditional financial systems has given rise to new, sustainable economies. We're seeing initiatives like the circular economy and decentralized digital currencies gaining traction. These changes challenge the old structures that once dominated the global scene. It's a monumental shift that even the most advanced technology and probability systems couldn't have predicted. He also predicted natural disasters that would reshape our planet, including increased seismic and volcanic activity, catastrophic floods, and more severe storms. He often spoke of a turning point for humanity, where we'd face significant changes and challenges. These could be global conflicts, economic crises, or natural catastrophes. But Cayce emphasized that these events weren't inevitable. How we respond to these challenges could change their impact. He believed in spiritual and physical healing, suggesting that our current struggles could lead to a collective spiritual awakening. More people are turning to spirituality and inner healing in response to the world's difficulties, a trend that has grown in recent decades. Interpreting Cayce's prophecies is challenging, and everyone might find different meanings based on their perspectives. What's clear is that his teachings continue to inspire and guide millions around the world. A new era of human evolution. In Edgar Cayce's predictions about a new era of human evolution, he saw a future where people would evolve into what he called having super consciousness. This idea suggests that humans would grow beyond their current mental and spiritual limitations. Cayce believed this evolution started around 10,000 BC and would continue until around the year 2400. He wasn't referring to a physical change, such as getting muscles or different appearances, but a change in the way in which humans perceive and understand things. According to Cayce, traditional ways of learning and living would become outdated. He imagined a time when schools and the way we educate ourselves would change drastically. They would become more sensitive and receptive to a higher form of knowledge, not just gained from reading, but from within them. This evolution would bring about a higher level of consciousness, where people could understand complex things more easily and solve problems in new ways. As much as Cayce's vision may appear utopian today, it paints a picture of a perfect world where human beings will reach their full potential. It implies that as we gain more knowledge and understanding about ourselves and the world, we can unlock abilities and insights that seem impossible today. Whether this vision will come true will be proven with time, but Cayce's concepts still fuel debates about human potential and the future of the human race. The origins of humanity. Cayce also made controversial predictions about the origins of humanity. He proposed that 5 distinct human races were created simultaneously in different parts of the Earth. His ideas continue to intrigue and challenge conventional perceptions about our origins and our future. He claimed that the white, black, red, brown, and yellow races emerged simultaneously, strategically placed around the globe by a divine power. Cayce alleged that the red people were descendants of the Atlanteans, residents of a lost continent called Lemuria. According to him, these people evolved and developed technology more rapidly than any other race. Additionally, Cayce maintained that Native Americans were directly related to the lost civilization of Atlantis, especially the Cherokee people. The history of the Cherokees dates back about 12,000 years, roughly the same period when Atlantis supposedly sank. According to Cayce, survivors from Atlantis fled to the Americas and became the Cherokees and Incas. He also believed in the existence of another lost land called Lemuria, located between Europe and the Americas. The inhabitants of Lemuria supposedly fled to Greece, founding the Minoan civilization and possibly sharing their advanced engineering skills with the Egyptians. In his visions, Cayce suggested that humanity continues to evolve from our current form. He proposed that there was a progressive evolutionary leap that began an impressive 18 million years ago when spirit transformed into matter. He also believed that humanity experienced a significant evolutionary leap between 10,000 BC and 3000 BC. Cayce's ideas about human evolution indicate a future with extraordinary advancements. According to him, a new phase of human progress began in 3000 BC and should continue into our current era, extending until 2004 AD. He predicted that we would achieve significant advancements in knowledge and understanding. Cayce predicted a dramatic transformation around 8000 AD, suggesting that by then, humans would have surpassed the limitations of their minds to the point where social structures, institutions, and even schools would become obsolete. In that future, humanity would evolve into a race of super-illuminated beings. Christ is here! Edgar mentioned the end times. That is also the time that our Jesus will come to save the whole world. There are many signs that he will return, and these astronomical phenomena may just be the beginning of the surprises to come. Jesus said, "But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." So don't believe anyone who claims to have specific times and dates. Secondly, how close we are to the second coming is relative. Jesus said he was coming soon approximately 2,000 years ago. I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have so that no one will take your crown. However, he hasn't returned in this context yet. What we do know is that we are closer to the end now than when these words were spoken. He did give us a good idea of when he will return, and that is when his gospel message reaches every nation on earth. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Lastly, I believe Jesus would tell you, rather than concern yourself with when he is going to return, which is a legitimate concern and something we all should think about from time to time. I know I do. He would tell us to be more concerned about getting right with him. Then Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, "Lord, are only a few people going to be saved?" He said to them, "Make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to." We need to read our Bibles, apply what we read in his word, have faith, pray, seek God, repent of our sins, and be baptized for the forgiveness of our sins. Simply put, God's plan of salvation is the divine romance recorded in the pages of the Bible. Biblical salvation is God's way of providing his people deliverance from sin and spiritual death through repentance and faith in Jesus Christ. When Adam and Eve rebelled, humans were separated from God through sin. God's holiness required punishment and payment for sin, which was and still is eternal death. Our own death is not sufficient to cover the payment for sin. Only a perfect, spotless sacrifice, offered in just the right way, can pay for our sin. Jesus Christ, the perfect God-man, came to die on the cross, to offer the pure, complete, and everlasting sacrifice to remove, atone, and make eternal payment for sin. God loves us and desires an intimate friendship with us. God's plan of salvation has one goal: to connect God with his redeemed ones in the closest of relationships. The Lord of heaven and earth wants to walk with us, talk with us, comfort us, and be with us through every experience of life. 1 John 4:9 says, "In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world, so that we might live through him." Accepting God's offer of salvation won't solve all of our problems. It won't make life easier. Unfortunately, that is just one of many common misconceptions about the Christian life. But we will find a love that changes everything. We will also begin to experience a new kind of freedom that comes through the forgiveness of sin. Romans 8:2 says, "And because you belong to him, The power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death. Once saved, our sins are forgiven or washed away. As we develop in the faith and allow God's Holy Spirit to work in our hearts, we are increasingly set free from sin's power. More gifts from God are the result of salvation. 1 Peter 1:8-9 speaks of joy. Though you have not seen him, you love him, and even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the goal of your faith, the salvation of your souls. And Philippians 4:7 speaks of peace. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, we need salvation to discover our true potential and purpose in life. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." As we develop in our relationship with God, He transforms us by His Holy Spirit into the person we were created to be. Our fullest potential and true spiritual fulfillment are revealed as we walk in the purposes and plans that God designed for us and designed us for. Nothing else compares to this ultimate experience of salvation. May God bless you. Whether you're a believer in psychic abilities and prophecies or a hardened skeptic, 2025 is shaping up to be an interesting year. At the very least, we have some entertaining predictions to keep an eye on over the next few years. Will there be any signs of what will happen next after the solar eclipse caused a stir throughout America? How much time is left before the Lord comes? Are people truly ready for His return? Let's wait and see. Lifespan. As human beings, we'll be extended. We know that humans are now living longer than at the time of Edgar Cayce, but his readings seem to indicate that a healthy human lifespan would extend years beyond that which we are currently living. He once said, "Now, we find there are many changes in the body since we have had this, many for good. Many of the organs and the conditions show the changes as come about by the natural or so-called natural conditions and changes as the body succumbs to the effects of age or usage in the system. Much of this may be overcome. Man should live much longer than has been ordinarily given, and will." While we have seen improvements in healthcare that have increased lifespans compared to Cayce's time, living for centuries remains a drastic idea. It would mean not just adding years to life, but also maintaining good health over extended periods. Cayce's vision implies that future generations might enjoy a longer and better quality of life in their later years. This could lead to changes in how societies are structured, including retirement ages and healthcare systems. The idea challenges us to think about aging not as a process of decline, but as an opportunity for continued growth and contribution to society. While Cayce's specific timeframe and ways for achieving these longer lifespans remain uncertain and speculative, his vision encourages us to consider the possibilities of future medical advancements and their potential impact on human longevity. It makes us imagine a future where aging is viewed differently, with new opportunities and challenges for individuals and society as a whole. Global conflict. Edgar Cayce's prediction about a major global conflict and shifts in power focuses on potential tensions centered around the Persian Gulf. He suggested that future hostilities will occur in countries such as Libya, Egypt, Syria, and regions close to Australia. Insights of Cayce state that these areas might potentially turn into critical areas of interest in geopolitical conflicts. This forecast aligns with modern debates about stability in the Middle East and North Africa, seen by the competition for resources, political power, and regional dominance. Further, Cayce has hinted at more profound shifts in the balance of power on the international level. He witnessed a change like leadership in the world, and believed that countries like Russia could be of immense help. This prediction aligns with historical shifts where countries have risen or fallen in influence on the world stage, impacting alliances and international relations. Cayce's vision of a major global conflict and shifts in power reflects his observations on potential conflict areas and the evolving nature of geopolitical dynamics. While the specifics remain speculative, the prediction shows the dependence on global affairs and the ongoing importance of diplomacy and international cooperation in preventing conflicts and maintaining stability. The rise of the legend. Few clairvoyants enjoyed the renown of Edgar Cayce, America's sleeping prophet. During his lifetime, Cayce gave more than 14,000 documented readings to a wide range of people, including celebrities like Harry Houdini, Thomas Edison, Woodrow Wilson, and Marilyn Monroe. These readings covered a wide variety of topics, including personal matters and health conditions. He also foretold events, from Atlantis' rediscovery to the outbreak of World War II. Yet, he earned his most famous moniker, the Sleeping Prophet, because of his purported ability to fall asleep atop books, awakening with full retention of the facts and illustrations recorded therein. Later, this skill transformed into the ability to diagnose and recommend treatments for illnesses while in a trance-like sleeping state. Cayce himself had no formal medical training. Here's what we know about Cayce's preternatural talents, surprising predictions, and fascinating medical diagnoses. Edgar Cayce remains a controversial figure, and with good reason. Stories surrounding his early life prove sensational and hard to believe. Yet, they provide the foundational elements for this fascinating turn-of-the-century American figure's rise to fame. Among his earliest exploits is playing with the little folk and communing with his dead grandfather. He considered these entities incorporeal, claiming he could look right through them if he focused hard enough. In 1889, 12-year-old Cayce recounted a visit from a winged woman who promised to answer his prayers. With all of these supernatural beings running around, it's little wonder Cayce had difficulty concentrating on his schoolwork. The day after he first met the lady with the wings, he received an unsatisfactory report from his teacher about poor spelling. Cayce's father tested him for spelling, knocking his adolescent son out of his chair in frustration. At this moment, Cayce recalled hearing the winged lady's voice. She commanded him to fall asleep a little while so they could help him. After pleading with his dad for a quick nap, he placed his head on the spelling book and snoozed. When his father woke Cayce up, he had full recollection of the volume tucked beneath his head. His father was stunned to find his son had every page of the book memorized. Cayce repeated the process with other school books. By 1892, his teacher pronounced him the best student in class. When she questioned him about how he'd turned around his school grades, he mentioned sleeping atop books. Each time he did this, he woke to full recollection of their contents. The legend of the sleeping prophet was born. Over time, his ability to absorb books during slumber was eclipsed by another talent: his ability to provide people with full medical diagnoses in his sleep. Acting as a clairvoyant doctor began with self-diagnosis. After getting hit in the spine with a ball during a school game, Cayce acted strangely. His parents put him to bed. To their astonishment, he began talking in his sleep, diagnosing his condition and describing how to cure it. After following their sleeping son's instructions, Cayce received healing. Soon, newspapers billed Cayce as the illiterate man who becomes a doctor when hypnotized. They described how Cayce, whom they described as a psychic diagnostician, would take off his coat, collar, and tie before reclining. He would then close his eyes and sigh deeply. Moments later, his eyes would open, filled with a dreamy quality as if in a trance, and he would start reciting diagnoses, cures, and even predictions. During his lifetime, he gave more than 14,000 readings covering a wide range of topics. There are hundreds of people throughout the United States who will testify at the drop of a hat to the accuracy of his diagnoses and the efficacy of his suggestions for treatment. Whether these information amounted to much more than anecdotal evidence remains up for debate. But Cayce's health recommendations from the 1920s and 30s do hold up to today's standards. His tips for leading a long and healthy life included getting a good night's sleep, cooking with olive oil, exercising, and drinking plenty of water. Besides his penchant for sleep-talking medical diagnoses, Cayce also made fascinating prophecies. While some appear to have proven accurate, others remain up for interpretation. Among those predictions attributed to him are foretelling the stock market crash of 1929 on two separate occasions, the first in February 1925, and then 6 months before the event, in March 1929. In 1935, he predicted how World War II would unfold, describing an unprecedented alliance between the Germans, Austrians, and Japanese. It's worth noting that this alliance would not come to light until the Tripartite Pact signing on September 27, 1940. Cayce also predicted the whole world will be set on fire by the militaristic groups. Other strange foretellings from the sleeping prophet include the use of blood as a diagnostic tool, the discovery of the La Niña and El Niño effects, and the convergence of communications companies in a cooperative and structured manner. He also spoke at length about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the people who created them, the Essenes. Yet, the Dead Sea Scrolls weren't discovered until 1947, 2 years after Cayce's death. And it would take many more years before details about the lives of the Essenes would begin to emerge. Cayce also discussed the lost city of Atlantis, predicting its rediscovery near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. In 1968, archaeologists discovered an underwater rock formation off the coast of the Bahamian island of North Bimini. The formation sits 18 feet below the surface. Some hypothesize it marks the submerged city's entrance. Although debate still rages about whether the Bimini Road is naturally occurring or human-made, its discovery lends additional credence to America's favorite clairvoyant. The anger from nature. Mother. Edgar Cayce made impressive predictions about changes in the Earth's geography. He claimed that the continents would shift and the climate would change the world in unimaginable ways. He suggested that this transformation could happen suddenly with the eruptions of Mount Etna in Italy and Mount Pelée in Martinique. Both are active volcanoes, with Etna being one of the most active in the world, having erupted recently, while Pelée had its last major eruption in 1902. One of the most critical aspects of this change would occur in Africa. Cayce predicted that the continent would split into 3 parts due to the formation of a massive new waterway, with the Nile River widening and the Red Sea expanding significantly. This dramatic change could even submerge the bustling city of Cairo under the sea. Asia would not escape these convulsions either. Cayce predicted changes in the geography of India, China, Japan, Korea, and the Philippines. He stated that the Pacific Ocean would advance and swallow large portions of land from the Philippines to Japan, leaving only a few remaining islands. The Korean peninsula and parts of China's coastline would also succumb to the rising seas. For India, Cayce issued a specific warning. He advised seeking refuge in the country's higher elevations due to the potential collapse of land. He believed that the Himalayas in Tibet and Nepal would offer safer refuge for Indians. Cayce also made less favorable predictions for Antarctica. He suggested that as the ice melted, the geological structure of the region would undergo drastic transformations, affecting global climate and altering weather patterns in unpredictable ways. Despite the extreme conditions, Antarctica is home to vibrant wildlife, including penguins, seals, whales, and seabirds. The ice sheet provides essential habitats and breeding areas, protecting many species from predators and ensuring access to food. However, Edgar Cayce predicted a dramatic transformation. Antarctica would lose its ice cover and turn into a vast green expanse, perfect for agriculture. On the other hand, Cayce foresaw a less favorable fate for Australia. He predicted that floods would cover a quarter of Australia's territory, submerging cities like Adelaide. Ironically, the arid deserts like Simpson and Gibson would transform into fertile agricultural lands. New Zealand, however, would emerge unscathed and might even expand, connecting to Australia and becoming a refuge for those displaced by global convulsions. In Europe, the predictions were equally dramatic. Cayce predicted that much of northern Europe, including Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, would submerge, leaving only a fragmented archipelago of islands. The United Kingdom would also suffer, with vast areas from Scotland to the English Channel succumbing to rising sea levels. Although some highland areas, such as London and Birmingham, might remain intact, many regions would not escape the devastating changes.